So, as you can see, I'm a right-winger. Wait, I'm an authoritarian leftist? Hey there guys, my name is Tyler and welcome back to another TyTalk. In today's video I'm going to be discussing how the political compass is bullshit and how society is actually structured. As I mentioned in the intro, I am in fact a right-winger. I don't say that because it's what I believe. I say that because that's what people have called me. That's the label that they gave to me. I'm a believer in capitalism, the Constitution. I'm a nationalist who's pro-free speech and pro-gun. With that, people labeled me as right-wing. They put me on that team, and personally, I'm not on either of those teams. I believe in right and wrong, not left and right. But what does it even mean to be right-wing or left-wing? For that, we need to go back to 1789 and the French Revolution. France was still a monarchy and was ruled by King Louis XVI, but after a variety of issues from the king, like unfair taxation, feudal privileges, and a worsening financial crisis, as well as seeing the American Revolution in 1776, the people began pushing for more freedom and more rights. This led to the National Assembly of 1789, where the people gathered to determine how the country should move forward and what should be included in the new Constitution. During the assembly, people were mostly separated into two factions, the left and the right. They were called left and right because of where they decided to stand in the assembly. People on the left were Republican, anti-royalist revolutionaries who wanted more freedom, while the people on the right were more traditionalists, pro-monarchy, and wanted to maintain the status quo. So conceptually, we have people that are for or against revolution, people that are for or against having more freedom. Somehow people convinced everyone that a socialist, a person who wants the government to own the means of production, is the same as a Republican revolutionary who wants to live more freely with capitalism. That apparently I, a person who's pro-liberty, is somehow a monarchist. For all intents and purposes, left-wing and right-wing is all about the French Revolution and what the ideals were at the time. There is no longer a reason to think in these terms. That is also why the square political compass doesn't make any sense either. It still tries to put people into this fake binary of left-wing versus right-wing. Because of this, I have created a new geometrical shape to help us understand how society is. I call it the triangle. Now, I'm sure that some of you are saying that political triangles already exist, and I'm here to tell you that they are wrong, and they don't even make any sense. So let's begin. What is a triangle? It is a three-sided and three-pointed geometrical shape. This is society. All societies are made up of three different parts. You have an authority figure, which is often called the government. You have commerce, which is usually called companies or businesses. And finally, you have everyone else, which are the people. Here, we have a small circle. It represents the values of a society and who gets the most benefit or who holds the most power. So if the government holds most of the power, the ball will be up here next to the government. If businesses hold most of the power, the ball will then be over here, and same for the people having all of the power down here at the bottom. We can determine where the position of this ball will be by looking at the laws of a society. Let's take the First Amendment, free speech. You can virtually say whatever it is you want and whenever it is that you want here in the US. Yes, there are certain restrictions on it, like you can't call for violence or lie, but when stating your opinion and even making fun of someone, you are more or less allowed to do that. So let's just place the ball down here towards the people from that law. Now, if the government comes in and makes a law making more speech illegal, the ball will start to drift up away from the people since they are losing more power. Same can be said for companies. If the government comes in and makes a law saying that monopolies are allowed, the ball will slowly start to move closer to the businesses, giving them more benefits and more power. So our debates should not be about left wing versus right wing, but they should be about where should this ball be? What should our values be as a nation? From this triangle, we can now establish certain zones of power. Now, the size of these zones is up for debate, but I made these hard lines to help explain the concept. If society drifts away from the people and heads up towards giving businesses and government the power, you become a corporatocracy. A corporatocracy is a system where corporations or corporate interests hold significant control or influence over society's political, economic, and judicial systems, often prioritizing business goals over public welfare. It describes a government or society dominated by large businesses, leading to policies shaped by corporate profit rather than democratic or societal needs, essentially placing the power of corporations above that of the people or the state. As I mentioned in my video, "Oh, that's not capitalism," this zone is where cronyism lives, and it's definitely not how we should be as a society. Now let's start drifting away from the government and more towards businesses and the people. This is called capitalism. This is where the people and businesses have more power than the government. They are allowed to freely exchange their services and goods. Now, as I mentioned in my capitalism video, this is not the elimination of the government completely, but a severe limiting of the government. We need the right regulation to prevent our society from becoming too beneficial to businesses and to help prevent us from falling into anarchy. This is the area that leads to the best outcomes and where we should actively be trying to be. And finally, we have an area where businesses have no power at all, and all the power lies with the people and the government. This is called socialism, when the state owns all of the businesses in order to force equality. Now that the areas are done, what happens if we drift too far into these corners? Well, too much power in the government leads to an authoritarian government style where people and businesses have little to no rights or power. This authoritarianism involves strong central power, reduced democracy, and curtailed civil liberties, characterized by rejecting democratic norms, suppressing opposition, promoting obedience to authority, conventionalism, and aggression towards outsiders, often using nationalism and propaganda to maintain control. Examples of authoritarian regimes are the USSR, China, and Nazi Germany. Now, if we eliminate the government and submit to our corporate overlords, we end up in a world like that of Cyberpunk 2077, which is a corporate dystopia. I dug a lot into this, and I couldn't find a specific word for this, like capitalism, socialism, or communism, so corporate dystopia is the closest thing that I could get. A lot of sources said that this was corporatocracy, but inside of a corporatocracy, you still have a government. So this is when corporations make all the decisions and have all of the power. They use private security forces to enforce their will to ensure that you stay subjugated to them. They don't look to the government to enforce laws and rules on their behalf. And finally, if we remove all of the power from the government and businesses, we end up with anarchy. Anarchy is a state of disorder due to the absence or non-recognition of authority or other controlling systems. Typically, anarchists, like communists, believe that once we get rid of our governments, we will simply live in peace. This will clearly never happen, so there's no reason to advocate for this. As I said in my video, communists are idiots. Communists are idiots. With that said, I believe that our society should be in this general area. This is where people and businesses have autonomy and freedom to do mostly what they would like. Yes, we still need regulation. We need to find a balance between anarchy and a corporate dystopia. We do not need communism, socialism, authoritarianism, or a corporatocracy, and chances are people that advocate for them are slaves and shouldn't be listened to in the first place. But as I mentioned before, this is where the discussion should be. Not right versus left, but where on this triangle should we be? People that keep you locked into the left and right wing just want to control you. And I, per usual, I want you all to be free. Hey there guys, thank you so much for watching that video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you haven't already, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And I will see you all in the next one. Thank you again so much for watching.